Boshoff Grobler. I'm a businessman that operates in South Africa, on the continent of Africa, and also in the developed markets. I found myself to be a very frustrated businessman. As we all know, a frustrated businessman is a dangerous businessman, because that's the time where risk-reward analysis goes out the window. I had to readjust and I had to think about how to do business in a place where me personally am frustrated. My frustration came from the fact that I lived in a time and in a place where at one moment in time I am ecstatic, I am energetic, I am amazed by the opportunities that this world and this country allow us to operate in. And then 2 seconds later I would open the newspaper or I would switch on the iPad and I would see things that are just so risky, so volatile, so uncertain. And it was in that place that I couldn't figure out what God has actually called me to do. I became an ineffective person. We were all called to be change agents, and I found myself to be not that. Somebody gave me a book, and I read through the book. It was a book written by Ben Horowitz. He's a venture capitalist, and he wrote a book about what it takes to build new businesses. We were right in the thick of building something new in this country, and he highlighted 2 emotions that you feel when you build something new. The one emotion is euphoria, when you get that new mandate, when you do something new, where you do something that and prove that something can be done that other people said could not be. And then secondly, the emotion of absolute terror. When you lose a mandate, when something goes wrong, when you don't have enough cash to pay the people in your business. But luckily, he says quite correctly, that while you're building something new, the fact is that there's a lot of sleep deprivation in your life. And that luckily sleep deprivation amplifies both these emotions. But still, understanding that he's right, I realized that that's not it. That's not the reason why I feel frustrated. I then happened upon a model, a business model that the Pre-Sensing Institute out of MIT provides us with. They speak about this mindset where we live in a dichotomy, we live in a disconnect in our world. They highlight 3 disconnections or divides as they call it. The first is what they call the ecological divide. The second, the social divide, and then the spiritual divide. The ecological divide is the divide where man actually thinks that he can operate in this world, on planet Earth, in a way that is disconnected from it. In the ecological divide, man realizes and understands that we only have one planet. But still, we take 50% more from Mother Earth than what she can rejuvenate and regenerate on an annual basis. That will result in food inflation and food prices doubling in the next 15 years. Even in the last 30 years, we have lost 1/3 of the world's arable land. They talk about 50 years from now that there will be food riots if something doesn't change. Then we live in a social divide where 2.5 billion people of the 7.4 billion people on Earth live with less than $2 a day. 1% of Mother Earth's people and population have more wealth than the bottom 90% of the world's population. That inequality is just not sustainable. And then the spiritual divide. The fact that so many people live a life, a current being that is disconnected and disassociated from their possible potential. And that is why the World Health Organization in the year 2000, they did a study and realized that twice as many people that die annually in wars or terrorism take their own lives. Twice as many people take their own lives because they live in a disconnection with themselves, and in my opinion, from God. It is in that disconnection, it's into that culture that God sends us, and He says, you go and you be a change agent. You live counterculturally, because that is going to make a difference in this world. And it's into that understanding that God called me on the 19th of May 2008. A personal calling, an exceptionally personal and timely calling onto my life, to build a business differently what other people have done at this time in our country. I was sitting in a quite a successful and cushy position in an investment bank in South Africa. And he called me out of that investment bank, showing me a vision one night where he showed me a picture of two baobab trees, that was feeding life and energy into a lampstand that was shining a light over Africa. I was quite disconcerted when I got up, and I asked God about it, and it was only revealed to me a few months later when I read the very same vision in Zechariah 4, where the two palm trees feed lights into a light stand, and that light gets cast over God's world. In that, he called me out of the investment banking world into a new tree, into a new platform, into a new way of financing and bringing funding into Africa. God called me personally, and with that authority, within a second, in his loving way, in his gracious way, he took me from a person that was just absolutely frustrated, and with one call into my life, everything aligned. And I started living in his authority because I had his calling over my life. In his love, he came and he built a bridge in the disconnection between me and him through his son, Jesus Christ. I truly understand that is grace and that is God. And I also understand that when God does something as amazing for me, that is not meant for me, but that grace and that purpose was meant for others. And that took us to a place when we realized, when we started building a business, that we're not building a business for ourselves or for shareholders. We're building a business to make a difference in this world, and in a way try to bridge that social divide. God showed us three very specific needs to address in the financial services industry on the continent of Africa. The first is that in most countries alongside or in the continent of Africa, less people save less money every year. We measure that with the household savings rates on the continent. The household savings rate in most countries on the continent is below zero. But it's not because people don't have money. They have money because the household consumption rate on the continent increases annually. So people have money, but they don't save it. And we realize this when people spend more money on data and on phones than what they use saving. We learn to understand that when people spend more money on cars than what they spend on saving. And it's into that place that God sent us in building something new and something fresh. Getting more people to save. And then when people are saving, we do so very ineffectively. The strongest pension system on the continent of Africa is in South Africa. If you want to measure how effective that pension system is, you use something that we call the net replacement ratio. The net replacement ratio is the percentage of your last salary check that you will have available in retirement on a monthly basis. Now, you want that to be close to 70% at least. The pension system in South Africa, the net replacement ratio is 12%, 2%. So something's got to change. People that are saving have to do so more effectively. And our business that we are trying to build is trying to do something significant into that space. Even if we get more people to save, and getting people that are saving to do so more effectively, the continent of Africa still suffers from twin deficits. That means that even if we bring enough cash and savings into the continent to change things for the better, we still require currency, hard currency funding from the developed market, from the US and from the UK and the like. The third reason why our business exists is to attract that capital onto sustainable projects on the continent. Because God has called us into the business space. People need to save more. People that are saving should do so more effectively. And because God has got His arm and fingers and hands onto this business, we will attract more capital into Africa to change the way that Africans live for the better. God called me as a person in a personal and a very effective manner. He called us and many others into a place where we can actually make a difference in the financial services sector on the continent of Africa. Maybe you're sitting there listening to all of this and you realize that you are also frustrated. Maybe you're a frustrated businessman, frustrated teacher, frustrated politician. Maybe it is true in your life as well that you realize that this culture that we're living in is a dichotomous culture where we live in disconnection from God, in disconnect from other people, and in disconnect from the place called planet Earth. I want to challenge you. Maybe it is true for you as well that the only way that you can bridge those disconnections is to start in a relationship with God, to experience His love, to experience His understanding, to experience His favor and grace on your life. That will change the way that you think about yourself. If you think about yourself through God's eyes, if you see yourself in your future, your emerging self through His love, you will be a changed person. You will have His authority to be a change agent in this world. But you see, loving God truly manifests only if it results in loving people. And maybe there's something different that you have to do in your business, in your place of work. Maybe you are misaligned and you're missing an opportunity where you can reach out to other people and change their lives, and their changed lives will result in reflecting back into God, and then reflecting into God might change their lives. Maybe His call on your life is to do something different for other people. You see, if you think that you are free from other people, you don't understand God's love. God's love means that we are free for other people. And don't you want to rethink your business, your world, everyday duties that you do? Don't you want to rethink it in a way that you will change other people's lives as God has changed yours? So God is an amazing being. He loves us so that we can love others, so that others can love Him, and this world be a changed place.